This is Talk Radio and Talk TV, and I've got a Lois next to me.
Everyone wants a Lois next to them, and not just for Christmas.
Not most people. There's one or two people. Let's be honest.
Shut up, you.
Okay, we were talking a little bit about immigration, and I want to introduce you to our next guest, who is one of the most fascinating people I've ever met, and actually somebody who has made a significant dent and a significant impact into the British economy. His name's Phillip Ullmann. He set up a business contracting people into many of the warehouses and large distribution companies that you will have heard of. At one point, he employed a total of 100,000 people a year, £1 billion turnover, and obviously made an enormous amount of money out of it. However, more recently, I think Phillip has decided that that sort of business is not a great future for Britain. So you employed 100,000 people a year, principally migrants, and they were low paid. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so the issue I had is that we would bring people over from overseas, and we would employ them in the warehouses, and...
Oh,
move back.
Okay, we can't see you well enough.
We can't see you well enough. Okay, yes. So we would employ them in the warehouses, and it was a tough life for these guys. So we would bring them over from Poland or places like that, and the wages were poor. In many cases, they'd be sharing beds.
So that's somebody sleeps in the bed during the day and somebody sleeps at night?
Absolutely.
Not at the same time?
Not at the same time.
That's good. That would be really bad.
That would be bad. It's bad enough sharing a bed.
It is.
Living off a packet of biscuits, being potentially away from their wives, away from their children. So they weren't being loved. So it didn't work for the migrant workforce. They weren't being cared for. But it also had a massive impact, as far as I can see, on the UK workforce.
Yes.
Because the workers in the UK wouldn't actually take the jobs because they were paid minimum wage, and on benefits they would actually take a cut in pay to take the jobs. Yeah. So instead people would be not working, and therefore it had a bad impact on both the migrants and the native workforce, and to me it's a serious problem.
So we are in a position where, in order to keep some supermarket prices down and get some deliveries, we are bringing people to the country who are now sharing beds, somebody in day, somebody in night, eating biscuits rather than proper food, being split up from their families, and in addition to that, we're having to pay benefits to subsidise companies like yours. I mean, you know, when people talk about how marvellous immigration is, that's the really rough end of it for these people, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's we have serious unemployment. We don't even measure the numbers accurately. A lot of people are unemployed. A lot of people who want work can't get work. And allowing private companies to use the benefit system, so use tax credits to pay much less because of the fact that part of the pay is being paid by tax credit, means that you're not actually employing people that want jobs. You're not creating a vibrant economy. And what I love to see is meaningful jobs that people actually love to do, where they come to work, they're part of a community, they start to they work with their family in the community, and this focus on the eye of companies being able to just focus on the shareholders and not actually thinking about the interests of people.
What do you think about the recent investigation, I think, that Richard Tice did, whereby the illegal immigrants that were coming over, it was almost being allowed at some sort of senior level for delivery companies like Uber and other delivery companies like that? I mean, that means that is there some high-level deals going on, or is it that they're taking advantage of it? What do you think?
I don't know specifically about that, but the relationships between the state and the market are very close and incestuous, and I've come across that throughout my business career. So it wouldn't surprise me. The point is, what we need to do is align businesses with the state, but not focused on the shareholder. We need everybody focused on people and focused on relationships, and then you get proper alignment. People want to create meaningful jobs. They want to create meaningful employment.
What I find crazy about this situation is you are, on the face of it, a phenomenally successful guy. You've done exactly what this country wanted. There's a whole new economic model of, you know, having agency workers and all this sort of thing. You've benefited from that and then walked away from it and thought to yourself, actually, I've done a lot of harm to society by being part of that. Now, I'm not individually criticising you, because that's the way the market moved and you merely followed the market. But it just astonishes me that we end up in a situation where we bring people to the country, we pay them slave wages, we treat them absolutely abominably badly, and then we all slap ourselves on the back saying, isn't this marvellous for the country?
And it isn't. And we've got history. I mean, the Industrial Revolution happened here. We've got the intellect. We've got the people with the brains. We're an island. We can do it ourselves. But we have succumbed to the system of focusing on the I and not caring about each other, forgetting that we should be trustees. We should care about everybody.
What was your moment? What was your moment when you thought, you know, I was going to say Damascus moment, but I'm not sure how appropriate that is. But, you know, when did you realise, you know what, I need to repent here?
Yeah, you're right. Look, I was at the company, and I was introduced to the concept of social enterprise. There was an opportunity within the NHS to take on a business, and they said, would you do it as a social enterprise? I said, what's a social enterprise? I didn't know what it was.
Right,
And then when I looked at it, the fact that you're operating for the sake of people, for the sake
You're doing good.
It's exciting. And I said, I don't, money's never driven me. I'm ambitious. I want to change the world. But money isn't what's
so
driven
when
me.
you were offered
when I
opportunity.
realised, when I looked at this, I said, 1 minute, this is the way we should be operating. We shouldn't be driven by the shareholder value. We should be driven on looking after people, and it's doable. It's not crazy at all. It's actually doable.
David, can I throw this at you, because we always talk about you know, the risk to our society of having uncontrolled immigration, but then you meet somebody like Phillip and he's literally said, first of all, basically the government's encouraging it. Secondly, he made a colossal amount of money and became, you know, quite a well-regarded person as a result of the whole thing. And it just says this exploitation is now so endemic within our system that we don't even notice it.
Well, also the other exploitation are the British people born and bred, you know, who would have higher wages if there were less migrants in this country.
And then the cost of living would go up.
Yeah.
And the government would have to explain that to voters. And if you're in an electioneering mode, you're checking now plus 20 quid, not 10 quid.
I slightly disagree with that. Because what I'm hearing here is we're not giving these jobs to British people because they pay too little.
Yeah.
And then we are tearing our society to pieces by bringing people to the country who don't want to be here, who've been split up from their families, and we're paying a lot of benefits. Because, I mean, the other side of this is, whilst you were very successful, you foisted upon the taxpayer a real problem in terms of looking after people and indeed in work benefits.
Absolutely. No, we have to go back and look at the fork. We make some fundamental mistakes, and I think the big one is that to allow shareholders to do whatever they want. You know, there's nothing wrong in generating wealth if you see yourself as a trustee. It's not mine. I've got to use it to build a society, to help people have meaningful jobs with houses without mortgages, with secure homes and secure families. If the resources are channeled, and I don't see it as mine, I see it as something I have to use for society, then you can suddenly get everybody alive. And I think historically we actually were quite good at that. We recognise in this country that we were trustees, the Cadburys, the Quakers, these people.
I was going to say that, yeah.
It's often been said that companies like Clifford Chance and Goldman Sachs and companies like that were passed down from generation to generation, obviously more recently have just been sold off by the most recent partners. Do you think that me culture in the corporate world is really damaging this country?
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. It's actually inhumane, because I think if you think about all of us, we actually do want relationships. When nobody wants to really be by themselves, it's almost deluded. So people make lots of money, they end up being in a gated estate somewhere, sitting without connections with other people, and they're not happy. So I think we forget that what we really crave is relationships.
As Marilyn Monroe said, you can't curl up with a career on a cold night. And isn't that true?
So what should now happen in terms of immigration? Because I now what I'm hearing from you, and forgive me for putting words into your mouth, that you're saying, look, we've got to end the slavery wages, but also we've got to end bringing people over to this country to undermine and undercut British workers.
Yeah, we need to look at the core problems. We need to start focusing on people and place. We need to start looking at areas that have been left behind within Michael Gove's levelling up, and say, how are we going to revive these economies? How are we going to get them focused on people, on bringing back the jobs, all the things that are being imported from the Far East, on slave labour? Let's start producing those things again here, looking after our people, and start to revisit the fault that we've made. It's all doable.
I find this extraordinary, David, that you see young people, going up to statues, going, this person was a slave master and all this, with a phone that was made by a 9-year-old and it was delivered to you by somebody who has had to leave their family for very, very low wages. And I just feel like the reason we're complaining about slave masters in Virginia 100 years ago, 150 years ago, is because we don't want to admit that we're still doing this.
Well, indeed, if you look at, you mentioned your battery, you look at the awful conditions that children mining cobalt and lithium, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's absolutely appalling. It's poured with rain. They get these massive sacks to cover. The mines are collapsing all the time.
I saw a bit thick. I was trying to find a better term, but
No, I think the problem is that it pays enough not to be a subsistence farmer.
What happens is now I'm sure Philip.
Not the people in the mines.
Oh,
the young people who don't know that they're using slave labour.
They're brainwashed.
They don't care. They don't care. But of course,
sorry, I beg your pardon.
What happens with somebody like you? I would suggest, if you are running an agency with lots of employees, you're always looking for, how do I shave off a penny here and 10 pence there and 50p wherever, and you end up in a position where you're just thinking, how little can I pay somebody? How bad can I make their conditions and still continue?
That's exactly the way the mind is forced to operate, because everyone else is operating. And I try to convert...
the shareholders.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I try to change it. I try to convert it to social enterprise. But when you're dealing with the large retailers and the large warehouse operators, it doesn't matter whether you want to look after your people and pay them a decent wage, because the whole system is based on these kind of relationships. So what you need to do is actually work out a way of starting again. We have crazy amounts of debt in the system. We're at the point where there's going to need to be a rethink, and we start to, when we rethink it, we're not going to go back to 2008 to where we bail out the bankers again. This time, let's actually look after people. Let's start to waive debts, start to look at a new system, and not just go on autopilot the way we did in 2008.
I've got to be honest with you. The demise of the family is all to do with this as well. Look, you're going to stick your headphones on very quickly because we have got a call coming through. Well, we've got a couple. John is in West Lothian. John, you're on TalkTV.
Good evening, Andrew.
Good evening.
I think your basic principle that you started off the show with, saying that the fabric in this country is being changed, is absolutely right.
Yes.
I think that there is far too much immigration for all the wrong reasons. And can I also say that it's not just Sadiq Khan in London. We have a First Minister in Scotland that is very much indoctrinated with the same sort of system.
But John, here's the thing. John, can I say this to you? The thing that Philip has effectively told me about is that, we can continually, as a country, go on and on and on about immigration and how marvellous it is. And the story that we're being told here is just dire, with people living in absolute squalid poverty in order for us to get a delivery 10 pence cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, we're encouraging people to come from abroad. We're actually damaging their countries by bringing people here as well. When we've got people in this country, if we would invest in them, could actually do the jobs better than those that are coming in.
Philip,
100% right. Yeah, what we should do is make the jobs meaningful. Make sure that people want the jobs, that the environment in the companies, people feel valued, and they're not running around like headless chickens for 18 miles in a shift.
To be fair, though, could you make a delivery, a guy on a bike delivering stuff, could you make that meaningful? Would it be to do with the way that it was structured and the family relationship in the depot and things like that?
It's the way it's the way you relate to people. We're not saying that the mundane jobs don't need to be done. It's, you do it in a caring way.
You value them.
You have small self-managing teams that care for each other. It's the way it's organised.
Yeah, but over a long period of time, there's always been mundane jobs. There's always been people that's been willing to do them, but they've got to be also treated with respect.
Yes.
And because they want to do the best for their families. You know, and now, what's happening? We're living in a socialist state where people are being brought up, young boys, girls are being brought up with parents that have never worked, don't want to work, and that's how they think it should be, that, you know, you can have as many children as you want because the state will keep them.
Yeah.
Wayne and Waynetta.
We're going way off the line here.
John, thank you so much. I mean, Philip, I'll give you the final word, but do you worry about our society, or are you positive about the idea that potentially we can come back to having family units, come back to having communities, come back to having meaningful jobs?
No, I'm excited. I think we've got the perfect environment. We've got the history. We lack confidence, but this is the place where the Industrial Revolution happened. We've got the brain power. We've got the history of trusteeship, the history of working together to lead change in the world, and we just have to get that confidence back and actually do it again. This time with a new technology which facilitates the change.
OK, well, that is Phillip Ullmann, who, you know, is one of the architects of the modern economic system, the idea of having people in as temporary jobs, having low-paid workers, somebody who was a phenomenon in business and has now walked away because he's concerned that it's damaged our society. I suspect, Philip, we're going to hear more from you in the fullness of time, and you're going to hear more from me straight after this.